home with my husband Mark, and I'm going to be interviewing him for this interview because he's the one that always does the filming, and he's a obviously very important part of my life. We've been married for over 30 years now, and we have 3 daughters. Many of you know or have spoken to them at some time. Melissa, who's about to have our 4th grandchild, her 3rd child, and our 4th grandchild and her 3rd child. And so I may even get a call while we're here on camera and to say that she's in labour, and I'll have to pop next door. But why I wanted to interview Mark, because there's so many men that are involved on the natural way trying to follow a healthy lifestyle, and I just thought it would be really nice to speak to Mark and get his honest opinion. I think sometimes people think he kind of just this quiet guy in the background and doesn't really have an opinion, and he has a very clear opinion on why he follows a healthy lifestyle and how it benefits him. So without much ado, I really just want to ask Mark why he's on the natural way, how he benefits from it, and what tips he could share with some men out there. So without any more, Mark, tell us. Why are you on the natural way? What made you? I mean, when I married Mark, he was the biggest junk food eater I'd ever met in my life. He'd wake up and you'd have a cup of coffee in one hand, and you'd only really eat around about lunchtime, and then would be burgers and fries and Coke and junk food.
Normal food.
Normal food. Mm. What did you think? I mean, we'd go out, I'd eat yogurt and honey for a snack, and you'd have burgers and chips.
Mm. Yeah, no, I had no awareness of health growing up. Absolutely none. I didn't even... Health to me just meant you were alive. You were able to run around. You were not sick. That's what health is.
Okay.
But, you know, what you were saying got through to me, and...
what was I saying?
Well, in the beginning, we started to steer away from white bread and white rice towards brown bread and brown rice and brown sugar. Starting to, eat more whole grain stuff. And then, and I was, working in the restaurant industry. I could basically eat anything I wanted at any time, of the day. So, and I did. It's surprising I never became completely overweight. I think what changed for me, or made me really become aware of the fact that I could inherit a health problem, was when I saw my grandfather get hardening of the arteries. And that was a real issue for me, because he was an amazing man. He was an accountant, and he could add 4 columns of figures up simultaneously and just write the answer at the bottom. So he had a good brain. But I saw for the last 10 years of his life, as you know, he just basically lost his mind. I mean, he just was in a home and didn't know who anybody was, didn't know who his wife was or who we were, and we used to go and visit him and cut his nails and stuff like that. But
so what kind of diet did your grandfather follow? Because you think, well, the last 10 years of his life he lost his mind. The immediate thought is, oh, he must have lived on junk food. But being a grandfather of you, I mean, you're in your mid-50s, he couldn't have lived on much junk food. There wasn't much around. So was his diet shocking?
Well, I would think that my grandparents ate the most perfect diet possible. I mean, they had enough money to eat as well as they needed to. They had breakfast, normal Rice Krispies with banana cut into it, and then they had mid-morning tea.
And with what, milk and sugar?
Milk and sugar, and mid-morning tea would have been a biscuit and some tea, and lunch would have been tuna sandwiches or a tuna salad. And really, I mean, I never, I would have thought that was a perfect diet, and he still succumbed. He never overindulged in anything, and they exercised on a regular basis. And as I say, the last 10 years of his life, he didn't know who he was. So that shocked me, I mean,
Yeah.
that's...
So here was somebody who lived a life of moderation,
Yeah,
which is what most people advocate,
yeah,
is this life of moderation, and yet he paid this terrible price with his health.
absolutely. And they grew up in an era where there was very little use of preservatives.
If I remember correctly, they weren't huge meat eaters. They ate meat, 3 times a week like most people would.
Yeah.
Fish and chicken.
So that shocked some reality into me. And then we started, I started saying to you, whatever you dish up, I'll eat. Whatever you want me to do, I'll eat. Whatever it takes to get healthy, I'll do it. And
whatever it takes to not have senile dementia.
yeah. This is what I want to say to any men out there that may be watching this video, and I hope they are, because I think this is an important message. I think it's important because it's not so much that I'm saying it, it's that I've experienced 20 years of health. And that is not only the absence of sickness, it is feeling great. I mean, it is absolutely feeling fantastic all of the time. And obviously you don't feel great from day one. When you start to make the changes, you have bad days and good days. But essentially over a 3 to 5 year period from when we started really being serious about the natural way, I remember feeling my best in year 5 and saying that to you at the time. And since then it has just been absolutely fantastic. But the point of it is, and the point of why I see this as important, is that in order to live a quality life, it's not about not dying, and it's not about living longer. It's about living a quality life, and that sounds fairly mundane, but it now is important to me as I have grandchildren and I'm able to spend time with them and travel with you overseas. When we've got to a place in our lives now where we have a little bit of extra money and we're able to do exciting things, we actually have the energy to do it. And we still have our wits about us. I mean, I almost feel now, as I'm 53, I feel like I'm actually starting my life. I think there's a whole new world opening up for us in business. We're looking at launching a business in America and doing stuff there, and I think it's a whole new beginning for us. And I feel like I have the energy to cope with it.
But it's a time when most men, I mean, if you look at a lot of what's said in the media, that you read about men's health, they say things like 50% of men over the age of 40 suffer from erectile dysfunction. They say things like, at your age you should be watching out for blood pressure problems, prostate problems. So just share with us a little bit more about your health. You had some health problems in the beginning, I know, with blood pressure, and it looked like you could have developed prostate problems when you were in your mid-30s, late 30s. And now you're at an age when that kind of stuff should be getting really bad, but just share with us your...
Well, as you know, Marianne, I had high blood pressure when...
Before I even met you.
I was 19, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, I could not get life assurance when I went to the army because both my parents had high blood pressure, and I was already, even at the age of 19, I had high blood pressure.
Can you remember what it was?
No, I can't really. I think it was 160 over 110 or something.
Yeah, that's what you remember you telling me that.
And
what's your blood pressure now?
And now it is 120 over 75.
Yeah, 115 over 75.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's just gone progressively down over the years, and I mean, just a couple of weeks ago we were gardening and we checked my blood pressure, and it was lower.
Lower, yeah.
It was 115 over 75. Yeah.
And I know that you had problems at one point when you drank beer, that and ate heated fats that you said could develop into prostate problems. Well, it's very clear because you had problems with urinating.
Yeah.
Just share with us those issues.
Well, many years ago, many moons ago, when I still used to drink beer, I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Why not?
Okay, I'll tell you now, but let me tell you why I stopped, about the two issues, the prostate issues.
Yeah.
I found two things gave me prostate problems, in inverted commas, that made it difficult for me to go to the toilet.
Yes, to urinate.
To urinate was any SA breweries beer, that's South African breweries beer, or any food with heated fats in it.
Like
fried foods, fried fish, fried chips, fast foods generally. They started to irritate me.
Yeah, which would shows research in natural health shows that heated fats are a major contributor to prostate problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that does raise an interesting point. I would not have known or picked up that those issues could have been a problem.
Yeah.
I would have not been sensitive enough to my body if I was not eating the natural way in order to pick that up as a specific problem, because it would have just been normal.
Yes.
Those problems would have just been normal, and I would have gone to the doctor like normal people do, and had medication.
And the interesting thing about that is one of the major side effects of blood pressure medication is erectile dysfunction. So you begin to wonder, are 50% of men over the age of 40 suffering from erectile dysfunction because they're on blood pressure medication or cholesterol medication or medication for prostate problems? Because a lot of the side effects, that's one of the side effects is erectile dysfunction. So I'm not telling men to go off their medication, but what I am saying is look at your lifestyle and look at what you're taking, and you could find the very health problems that you're battling with are because of certain types of medication you're on. Medication, to us, I think it's been a big thing, has never been a solution because you're just treating the symptom and not the cause. And the thing with you was to find out what the cause was. We found with you that if you had any caffeine, you were a big coffee drinker, you grew up in a family where you'd open your eyes and you'd have a mug of coffee in your hand. The minute you took caffeine out of your diet, your blood pressure normalized.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was like a huge thing. So, you could have, and your mother drank coffee and your father drank coffee, so they all had these blood pressure problems. And how many people are on blood pressure medication because they're drinking coffee?
Yeah.
Or drinking colas, or, whatever. Okay, so you had these health problems, and they've cleared up.
Yeah.
So...
All right, so let me talk to you about the alcohol. And
the alcohol thing. Why don't you drink alcohol?
And the caffeine. Caffeine is an issue as well.
Yeah.
The two things that were a really big issue for me were caffeine and alcohol.
Okay.
One, because I loved coffee and I loved the taste of it.
Yeah.
And two, because I loved the ritual of having coffee and going to a coffee shop. I love Starbucks and the whole vibe in a coffee shop and the smell and the aroma of the coffee, and I still do, even to this day. And I'm not going to not ever have coffee. But
you have, what do you have now?
But I have decaf now.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is 15 years ago, when some good quality decafs were being launched in the marketplace, and you and I used to read up on how they were made and the research behind them, and found that they'd been processed by steam and that they were quite acceptable. But I did on 2 or 3 occasions have some very, very bad panic attacks that were distinctly related to coffee. I knew I'd drunk too much coffee that day, and that night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Too much coffee, would you say, is how many cups a day?
To me, 2 cups after 12 o'clock would give me
12 midday.
12 midday. Any time after 12 midday, it would give me a panic attack in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And then one day, I had 2 cups of coffee in town in Johannesburg at the time, and I had got a panic attack while I was driving home, and then I knew that was definitely.
And since you stopped caffeine? No panic.
No more, you know. No. And so that was the way I got off caffeine, was to cross over to the decaf. And now if I have a decaf once a week or once every 2 weeks, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I do those on special occasions. So I would like to tell everybody to get off coffee. I would say that's a very, very important step. Certainly, you don't want to be hyped up, and you don't want to, you know, have a panic attack.
Well, I mean, it's having panic attacks, pushing up your blood pressure, which shows it's upsetting the endocrine system, which is the hormonal system. So that's reason enough.
Yeah.
You may not have a high blood pressure, but you may end up having reproductive problems or arthritis or gout or constipation or any of the endocrine problems that people have.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the alcohol.
Well, alcohol is also a big issue for me, because I like beer, I like the taste of it, and I did used to have a couple of beers on the weekend. I never used to drink during the week at all, as you know. But I found that even with just 2 or 3 beers around Sunday lunch, it took me 2 or 3 days to recover from that.
When you say recover, what did it do?
I just felt like Monday and Tuesday and half of Wednesday, I was in a no-go zone. I was just not functioning. My mind wasn't clear. And when I stopped drinking,
now that you stopped the coffee, which was helping to clear your mind on Mondays.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeling the beer.
So I stopped having alcohol altogether, and that feeling, that non-starter thing on a Monday morning went away completely. But I want to say this because it's quite interesting. Alcohol was probably the last thing to go in my diet.
Mm.
And I noticed literally mental improvement in myself over a 2-year period from stopping with alcohol. And I can't explain this to you in scientific terms, but I knew that I was thinking clearer on an ongoing basis. The longer I stayed off alcohol, the clearer my mind was.
And you were getting older.
And I was getting older. And that's great.
We wrote a book together that came out about 18 months ago called Take Control. And I don't think people actually realize that this is a book we actually wrote together. They just assume that I put you on the cover because I'm married to you and put your name there because I felt sorry for you or something. But the very things that Mark's been talking about with alcohol and caffeine are issues that we cover in here. From Mark's experiential point of view, and from me from a more nutritional scientific perspective, actually taking a look at what Mark's been saying and why his brain was clearer. So there's some of the issues. This is actually a fantastic book for men to read. And in fact, both of us say that this is our favorite book.
Yeah.
And it's the one book that's not selling as well as the other books. And I can only think because people either don't know about it, but what's been amazing for me and for both of us is to get people who've read it and get their emails. I mean, we get the most passionate emails from people that have read this book. This is the book that has the most life-changing effect on anybody's life we've ever had. I mean, we've had letters from people all over the world about the natural way and you know, the recipe books and healthy kids and everything else. And Perfect Weight, those books. But the letters we get from people, the emails, have been, I mean, like we get lumps in our throats and tears in our eyes when we read these letters, to just see the profound effect that it has on people's lives. And I just want to encourage everybody to buy the book, simply because there's so much fantastic stuff in there. I mean, I get inspired reading this book. It's just, I get inspired listening to you, because it's been a wonderful thing for me as a wife. And I know that, having over the years spoken to a lot of younger women, it's so frustrating to be married to somebody who's not passionate and got direction in their lives. And when we first got married, you were like that, but then you kind of slid into this corporate mindset where you used to go to work and have drinks after work, you know, on a Friday, and then have a couple of beers over the weekend. And I could actually see that mental deterioration. I didn't realize what it was. I just thought, you know, and it's only now that you're actually talking about this again and how your brain has improved that I can say there's been this sort of sharp, young, sort of erratic, going off like, just, if I think of you as a person, here was somebody who was like, just being like totally spontaneous, out there, radical, which is very common with youth. And then there was this like period where I used to get so frustrated and like, here is that dynamic person gone, and to see how now you, this very, very focused, very calm, very clear-headed, and your capabilities have improved so dramatically. And I'm not just saying this because I love you, but I mean, thinking about it now objectively, it's actually been quite amazing to think of the incredible mental curve you've gone through learning stuff about the computer and filming and editing and writing music. And I mean, Mark makes this DVD every month, and right now we've got our daughter Meredith filming it, and she's at film school. And
yeah, that's why we can't talk about sex, because my daughter's running the camera.
His sex life has improved eating his way, and he'll tell that to you while Meredith leaves the room. But the most amazing thing is how, Meredith was just telling us how, she has a sound person doing stuff, and somebody else filming, and somebody else directing, and somebody writing the script, and somebody else doing the music, and, you've got like 12 or 15 people working on a movie, and Mark does this entire thing every month on his own. But he's not only doing this, he's overseeing the business of our products. He's traveling around the world with me, making sure that, the tickets are in the right place, we're driving to the right place, he's driving on the right side of the road in the right country. And when I see how efficient your brain is compared to where it was, I mean, it's actually quite phenomenal. People often say to me, how do you guys get this done? How do you do so much? And it really is, our diet has a very dramatic effect on it. I mean, it's been amazing to see how, as I say, how efficient your brain is as you're getting older. It's actually quite frightening because, I've seen you actually employ and pay other people for advice, business advice or advice on computers, and you end up teaching those people yourself. And then now you've got to the point where you realise, no, well, your brain is actually working well enough, you can just learn it.
Well, thanks for all those sweet things that you said. Well, that's really the issue in what I'm trying to say, is that the men out there should not see what we're saying as part of the natural way. They should not see it as being chided, or they have to be healthy. Oh, Sherbet, really, do I have to do this? Is it another salad? Do I have to have this fruit salad? And I know men are like that. They just, really do. I don't feel like these sandwiches, these brown bread sandwiches, and
I want white bread.
I want white bread, and it's so pathetic and it's so childish. And I'll tell you to your face, if you were sitting across the room from me, that is a very childish and a very pathetic attitude. Okay, you do the right thing because it's a non-selfish thing. You've got a family. It is the most selfish thing to die, to live your life and die before your children grow up or your grandchildren grow up. Because I know my children grew up without grandfathers. And they were too selfish. Too selfish grandfathers. Too selfish to change the way they lived, to stop drinking, and to make the changes that were necessary in order to be around for my children. So my children grew up without grandfathers.
And they would have only been in their late 70s. They could have been
absolutely
very alive today. Yeah.
And
we're planning to be alive after our children.
Absolutely. And the other thing was, and I didn't explain that clearly enough, was when I was talking about energy, when you run your own business, you need to have energy to be at work every day and every morning. You do not have the time to be sick if you run your own business, because if you're not there and you're lying in bed or you're lying in hospital, who's doing your job? It's important that you have sustainable energy as a business person and a clear mind. And I think that is one of the motivating factors for being healthy. I think that the men out there have got to see that this health thing is absolutely imperative. They need to buy into it, and they need to make the changes necessary in order to have the sustained energy and the health, not only for themselves at business and at work, but for their family.
And how has this impacted on your spiritual well-being?
Well, I think it has huge implications, Marianne. I think for me personally, being in control, and that's one of the reasons we call this book Take Control, was you need to take control of the things that you can control. You can't control airplanes flying into 9/11 or earthquakes and floods and those sorts of issues. Those are definitely out of your control. But you do control what you put into your mouth. And if you control what you put into your mouth, you can live a disciplined life. And that's the important thing. And I found that and I was saying this to my son-in-law Jason this morning, that as you discipline your life, you can sense God's blessing on your life because of that. Because God rewards a disciplined life. And what you and I have started doing recently, and you were saying it the other morning, which is quite true, that since we've started fasting 1 day a week, we've sensed God's blessing on our life in many ways. Not only in our business and our personal life, but there's definitely in our spiritual life. So I would say that eating this way has definitely helped me be closer to God and understand the Bible more clearly, and have a clear mind when we read the Bible and pray, and that's important.
Well, you're not moody anymore, so you're not angry with God.
Absolutely. And caffeine. One of the things we didn't mention about caffeine was the depression that comes after caffeine and alcohol.
Yeah.
Is huge. I mean, I used to be really, really depressed, and it was one of those things I thought was inherited from my family. Caffeine, alcohol, sugar, and
your depression came across as moodiness.
Yeah.
Where you just didn't want to, and your grandfather had that problem, and your father had that problem.
So melancholic.
Yeah.
No, it was called in
more
those days.
than my kind of manic depression where I went crazy. Yours was. Yeah.
So there are a lot of reasons, and I've enjoyed talking to you about it. I must tell all of you out there that watched the DVD, I have enjoyed making it, and I've enjoyed people that have written back to us and told us that it's really helped them, and that's kept us going.
It's a lot of hard work. I mean, it's a
lot
huge
of
amount of pressure.
Work, and it's not going to a lot of people, as many people as we'd hope.
We don't have this 15 people helping you because, it's just not financially viable from that point of view. But what it does do is it supports people that are unable to get to the talks, and possibly with our hectic schedule coming up, we may find that we're not able to do as many talks as we could in the past. So this is the way we can communicate with people. Yeah.
Well, that's how we came up with the idea.
Yep. You did. You come up with all the good ideas. I'm the one that has to do all the hard work.
Yeah.
No, I get to do the talking. Mark's the one that does the hard work.
This is also an historical DVD because it's DVD number 24.
Oh, really? So we've been going for 2
years? So we've
done
2 years of DVDs.
Oh,
Two like that. So thank you for watching, and we hope you stay DVD subscribers for many years to come, and we hope we can continue to bring you quality.
And if we can get more people getting the DVDs, we can bring the price down. That would be good. I'm always wanting things cheaper. And you being Scottish, you'd like to have them more. So I always want to bring the price down. So if we can double the amount, then we can maybe bring the price down a bit. Could we commit to that?
Yes.
Okay.